going here, I think. Just want to welcome everyone. We still have people jumping in here. I can see on the attendee list, people are still jumping in. But I just wanted to kind of get going here. We want to leave our presenters a good chunk of time to discuss some of the, session that I'm, more interested in over the next 6 weeks than any. It's a really exciting session for me, and I'm really, excited to have both Randy and Brendan on the Zoom tonight. I met Randy a long time ago when he was just a grade 10 kid at the Hill Academy. He didn't have all that peach fuzz on his face yet. And have been really, really excited to see his pathway and his growth and development, and to see that he is now a leader with Brendan and their company and group called Turtle Island Lacrosse in advocating and promoting diversity. Both are highly decorated players playing college in Syracuse. I think Brendan played in Denver. And then it's the Georgia Swarm night. We just had Coach Como, head coach of the Georgia Swarm, and now these two gentlemen were going to take us through some topics around the Indigenous roots, the Creators Game, what they do at Turtle Island, and then how can we include and promote diversity within this unbelievable game that came from the creator and from the Indigenous peoples on our land. I'll leave it over to you, gentlemen.
Okay, awesome. Thanks for having us. Very excited to be here. Like Russ mentioned, my name is Randy Staats. I'm from Six Nations, Ontario. Grew up here, still live here. I'm from the Mohawk Nation, Turtle Clan. Yeah, go ahead, Bomber.
Yeah, my name is Brendan Bomberry. Like Russ said, I played for the Georgia Swarm in the NLL. Also played for the Iroquois Nationals on the world stage. He also mentioned I went to Denver my first 2 years before transferring to Syracuse, and I'm also from Six Nations, Mohawk, Turtle Clan, and I'm just happy to be here with you guys and excited to get this going.
So I guess we'll jump into kind of how and where we grew up. Growing up on the reserve, it's definitely a different place than any other place. It's pretty unique. Lacrosse is, I would say, ingrained in our culture and in our community. I started playing the game when I was 3 years old. In our culture, when you're born, and if you're a boy, you get a stick in your cradle. And then, once you leave this earth, you're buried with a wooden stick. That's pretty powerful in itself. This game's been passed down from generation to generations. So my dad introduced me to this. His dad played, all my uncles played, and so on and so on. And, in our culture, it's pretty unique. I think we're probably the only culture that has that, like, with a sport. So, it's very, very powerful. And, my family and Bomber's family isn't the only family like that. You can go up and down these roads and see different families who've had this game passed down to them. And it's pretty special. You got anything on that, Bomber?
Yeah, Randy touched on a little bit. You drive down the road, pretty much every house has a lacrosse net sitting outside, and that's a telltale sign that how much this game means to us. And I think that we always say it's more than a game, and it really is. It might sound cliche, but it is. And I think that for me personally, that's not more true than now. Just with the whole COVID thing going on, just making me realize how important this is to our families, and how much we miss lacrosse, and how everything was kind of centered around whose practice was next, or whose game where are we going to this week, and just having that that experience with the game, and it's really something that we miss a lot, for sure.
Yeah, and so let's just dive into the origins of the game and where it comes from. I want to make this pretty clear. We didn't invent the game. I know a lot of times it's said that the native people invented it, but it goes beyond that. Like Russ mentioned, the Creators Game, it was gifted to us by the creator. When we talk about the creator, it's like it's like for some people who are Catholic, God in a sense. So I wanted to make that clear. Bomber, do you want to touch on the name of it and that type of thing?
Yeah. So our traditional, I guess, loose meaning, our word for it is Dehonche Quives, which means a loose meaning between they bump hips and a little brother of war. So, the origin of this game was, there was a time where our tribes and our nations were fighting with each other and killing each other. And there was a time where, we wanted to settle these disputes safely. And there was this game, and to kind of help settle these scores and help settle the divide between the nations. It wasn't right for us to be killing our own people. And that's, something that, it kind of carried on our game where, these games settled these scores, like I said, and these games, they lasted for days, weeks at a time. The fields lasted or were, miles and miles long. There was hundreds of players that played in these games, and games lasted for days. And like I said, they were used to settle, disputes, and that's where it got that name, Dehonche Quives, little brother of war.
And I think to add on that, Bomber, like it wasn't just to settle disputes. Like it was used for ceremonies. It was used in that kind of aspect too. So do you want to touch on that?
Yeah. So, the traditional medicine game, which a lot of people, still refer to the new game that we play every day as a medicine game, but we also have a traditional medicine game, which, we play in ceremonies, like Randy said, at our longhouses, which I guess would be church or mosque, or place of prayer. And these games would take place for people that needed this medicine. And, games would be played between, usually it's called young mush versus old mush. And the young mush is against players who don't have kids yet. And if you have a kid, you're considered old mush. So that means if you're, 18 years old and you have a kid, you're considered old mush. You're playing with players, maybe 55 years old. And in these games, you're playing with traditional wooden sticks that we played with, also with a ball made from, deer hide and wood. And the goals were stumps. And these games kind of range from whatever that person needed, that medicine. So it could be 2 to 3 goals, whatever the case may be. And, during these games, they're playing with no equipment, with these traditional wooden sticks, and this ball going, falls to the wall, really. And using and trying to create that energy and that good medicine that this person needs, and it kind of wears off of them, and they can enjoy this game, and that's where that medicine comes from.
And to touch on the old mush and young mush, that's when in our culture, if you don't have a child or you didn't bring a life into this world yet, you're seen as kind of, well, you're not seen as, you're just like, you're not considered, I guess, a man in a sense, because you're not taking care of another life. You don't have to provide for him. You don't have to worry about them. When you have children and it's not just about yourself anymore. You got to provide. You got to be a man and make sure they're fed, make sure they're warm, make sure they're comfortable. So that's kind of why it's set up that way. So yeah. The other thing we wanted to touch on was, I guess, women in our game. Obviously now the game is different, and women aren't using traditional sticks, but in our culture, it's slowly changing. So I guess, they're in our culture, they're seen as bringers of life. And so that's why they were kind of forbidden and not allowed to play back in those days, was because they didn't want to send our life givers to go into basically war amongst other people. Do you have anything to add on that, Brendan?
Yeah, I think it goes to show where women lie. For us, we hold them in a higher sense, they're like Randy said, they're a bringer of life, they're a giver of life, and we felt that we didn't want to put them at any kind of risk, and kind of for them not to be able to continue to do that. And I think that's important now for us, as we move forward with Turtle Island Lacrosse, is we really want to include women and really show that they are able to play. The games today, although we call them medicine games, they're not those traditional medicine games that we once played. So there's no dishonor in anything that with women playing the game. And we want to kind of show that we're evolving, and we're allowed, we're enabling girls to kind of reach for the stars and really take on this game and play as much as they can, because they are very talented. And there's girls who grow up in families much like ours, where lacrosse is everything, and they want to feel that same thing that their brothers or their uncles or their dad or whoever the case may be, they want to feel that same way too. And I think for us, that's important to kind of bring out. And I think it's hopefully we can kind of get our Haudenosaunee women's girls up to up to the higher standing in the world games, and kind of bring that following up as well, because they deserve it.
Yeah, I think let's get back to talking about I just wanted to touch on that, because a lot of people don't really know that about our culture, and why women aren't allowed to play. Obviously now in today's day and age, it'd be like, okay, well, that's kind of messed up, but there's obviously a reason behind that. So when we talk about the medicine game, it's a lot. It's a lot of different things, and it's not just for the player. For me, when I play this game, I don't think about what I got going on at home. I don't think about work. I don't think about anything else. My focus is in the present and what is going on, in the game. And it, like I said, it's not just for me as a player. It's for the fans. It's for the people watching. It's for everybody else. So, for example, like in our community, playing, senior A here and playing junior A here, that medicine spreads to old people, young people, sick people, people who had a bad day, people who are just in the crowd, right? And you can see that medicine spread amongst people once, a goal is scored or a bad hit happens or a bad call, that's that medicine that emotionally invests people in the game. And, whether good or bad, that's the emotional investment that this game can have on people, and it spreads like wildfire. You got anything on that?
No, and I think that a lot of our although the games have changed and equipment and all these things have changed, we still carry on those traditional values that our traditional game provides. And I think that's important for us, that every single time we go out there, we know we're playing with a good mind, a good heart, and we're playing with everything that we got for the enjoyment of the creator, and like Randy said, for the enjoyment of the people who are watching us and the people that can't any longer. And I think that's important, that every single time we go out there, we really are playing for more than just ourselves. I always like to say it's cliche, but it really is true. We go out there and we don't know what those people have gone through that week, but for those 2 hours, they get to watch us play, and we want to give them the best show that we can, and show that we're grateful that they're there, and we're grateful that they come out to watch us, and that we want to return that favor and spread that good medicine for that upcoming week, whatever they have to go on to after that.
We're grateful for just being out there. That's something in itself, and something you just mentioned, Bomber, was a good mind. The game brings out mind power, the good or the bad. That's what that means. So playing with a good mind, I'll just list them off. So one, control your mind and make sure, adversity happens obviously in the game, and to disrespect the game or to take a dumb penalty or to miss a pass and be hard on yourself, you got to kind of control your mind in a positive way and make positive actions out of it, rather than playing with a bad mind, you know, taking that penalty or being so hard on yourself that the next play or the rest of the period or whatever, you know, you're just not playing well. So it's kind of that balance of staying positive and keeping your teammates positive. So that's what that means. Control your mind. And then number two, and this is from like, this isn't just me like making this up, you know, this is like what we believe in and what our ancestors have done for hundreds of years. So the second thing would be to take care of your body, you know, obviously going out a night before a game or doing stuff like that isn't really taking care of your body. And, you know, your body allows you to play this beautiful game. And, you know, if you don't treat it right, this game could be taken away from you. Number three would be control your emotions. Like I said earlier, it's almost the same thing as controlling your mind, right? So like I said, with the investment of emotions, I mean, I'm still learning this one myself, but, you know, games can get high, games can get low, you know, and it's always keeping that even keel and making sure, you know, you're doing your job until the job's done, right? You got anything on that, Bomber?
Yeah, I think a lot of coaches, you know, they always stress not too high, not too low, and it's finding that perfect balance. And I think that's important with, you know, when it comes with having a good mind. You know, lacrosse, we all know lacrosse is a game of swings and a game of runs and whatever the case may be. But, you know, it's about controlling those emotions and whatever, you know, the game throws at you, and just kind of keeping your head and moving forward to kind of help your team do what, you know, whatever is necessary to help win. And I think, you know, and that comes from having a good mind, and, you know, that positivity spreads off to your teammates, you know, even if, you know, they might be having a bad game or whatever the case may be, but just kind of having that positivity and that even keel sense of, you know, controlling your emotions and keeping them in check. And it kind of wears off on your teammates and ultimately uplifts your team and, you know, hopefully helps you onto a W.
Yeah. We'll talk about two more things. One thing is that I wanted to touch on is a wooden stick, and just a stick in general. I don't think, you know, it's not just a piece of equipment for me. You know, I got a lot of teammates who just shove their stick in their bag and don't open it up until the next practice, you know, and the way I was raised is you treat your stick how you want to be treated, and it'll treat you the same on the floor. My dad kind of instilled that in me from a young age, and, you know, I still live by that, and I believe that because, you know, from a wooden stick perspective, if you look at it, it's kind of alive because it's getting cut from a tree. That's a living, breathing thing. And, you know, it's a form of medicine that allows us to heal as a person, or a community or a nation. And to think that a piece of wood can do that is pretty incredible. And, you know, I think that a lot of people don't really think of that side of things and how much goes into creating a wooden stick. And, you know, I think it's very important that people understand, you know, it's not just a wall hanger or anything like that. You know, I used the wooden stick from probably, well, when I first started 3 to probably Pee-wee. My dad made me use a wooden stick, and, you know, that's kind of the values he instilled in me. Him and my uncle still chirp the plastic sticks and call them Tupperware, but the game's changed a lot. So, yeah. Do you got anything to add on that, Bomber?
Yeah, I think Randy touched it a little bit. You know, the stick is a living form. You know, we cut down that tree from, you know, it's living as well, and all the laces and everything come from a live animal that gave up its life. So in a sense, you're honoring them, you know, as you use that stick. And, you know, I touched on it a little bit earlier as well. You know, although we don't use the traditional wooden sticks anymore, we still carry on those values that we got from that stick. I know for me, my dad, my stick was my first responsibility. You know, he made me, you know, take care of it the best I could. And he kind of instilled in me that, you know, if I took care of my stick, it'd take care of me. And like Randy said, you know, I firmly believe that. And he also told me, it's pretty funny. He said, you know, treat your stick better than you treat your girlfriend. And, you know, I've always kind of stick true to that too as well. I know that, if I take care of my sticks and take care of me, and, I'm always, doing whatever I can to kind of get that upper hand, I guess. And that kind of makes me feel, and kind of goes along with the good mind of, having my stick, and, kind of gives me the confidence to know that I can go out there and do whatever I needed to do, and that kind of sense.
A good example of this too, I don't know if you guys watch the PLL stuff, but Zed Williams, in his interviews and after the game and during the game, you see him and his connection to his stick is pretty cool and pretty interesting to watch, so it's much more than a stick, and I'll leave that at that. Is there any questions or anything?
Randy, sorry, it's Russ here. I forgot to tell people too, if you do have questions, you can just put them into the chat window, and then we will moderate them and make sure that they get passed on if Brendan and Randy can't see them. So if you do have some questions, you can just put them into that chat window.
Okay, I got one more thing that I want to, I guess, leave off on before we open it up for that. So in our culture, before we do anything, ceremony or play like a traditional game, and even for the Iroquois Nationals, we say this every morning, during the 2 weeks that we're at a tournament or something like that. So it's called the Thanksgiving Address. And basically what this is we thank everything that's here on earth. And I'll just walk through, I guess, what we think. So number one's the people. We have to all live amongst each other and be a part of each other's lives and interact. The next thing is Mother Earth. Water is life. The fish, because they cleanse the water and purify it, and sacrifice themselves for us to eat. The plants, the medicine herbs to take our sicknesses away. So for example, on this, it's like there's some pretty good traditional medicine men in our communities, and they could walk in a bush and pick out a plant that I would have no idea about, and that plant has meaning and it has purpose to heal. It's pretty incredible stuff. The other thing, there's a couple more things. The animals, the birds, the Creator gave them beautiful song to remind us to enjoy and appreciate life. The four winds, north, south, east, west. It brings us change of the seasons. We thank the thunder. We thank the sun each day. He travels without fail from east to west. It also is a sign of light of a new day. We thank Grandmother Moon. She's the leader of all women and lights the nighttime sky. We thank the stars that help light the darkness at night, and they can also guide us home. And we thank the Creator for all his gifts and everything we need to live a good life here on earth. And then at the end of all this, we say, now our minds are one. And that's a pretty powerful thing to look at, because you don't see anything about money or anything about or materialistic stuff. It's all about whatever's put here on us, on this earth, for us to live a good life. And in our culture, we're not big on this is as simple as it gets for us. We're pretty simple people and pretty one with our earth. And I think a lot of times that goes unnoticed and people don't understand that. But if you take a look at it, there's not too much you need here on earth to live a good life.
Yeah, and I think just kind of going off what Randy said, these are, it really brings you right back down to earth, really. And it kind of shows you that, you have everything here that you need. There isn't much more than that, and be grateful for what you have, and kind of put your best foot forward, and kind of go through life and appreciating those things. And I think a lot of time those things get lost, and we forget about those things. And going there and hearing those things in Thanksgiving address, and it really makes you grateful for everything that you do have, and know that those are always things that are there.
And the powerful thing too, I think, you know, at the end of it is now our minds are one, and, you know, being one with everything and everything that's here. I think, you know, you can relate this over to a team atmosphere. You know, you got your defense that has to do their job. You got their goalie that has to do their job. You got the offense that has to do their job. And in that, everyone has to have the same mind to complete that goal. So that's kind of how I relay that to that. I think it's pretty powerful stuff.
Yeah, I agree. I saw there was a question.
Yeah, perfect. I'll just, I mean, I'm almost emotional from just going through that session with you guys. I think there's just such incredible depth to those messages. There is a question Ryan Smith is asking, and this is just a fantastic question. As a non-Indigenous coach, and do you have any advice on teaching all my players the origins and deeper meaning of the game while staying respectful?
Yeah, I think, you know, just learning about who we are as people. I think that's the biggest thing, you know, whether that's watching YouTube or reading books. You know, I think getting an understanding of who we are as people and then translating that into lacrosse. I think that's the thing that people misinterpret is that it's about lacrosse when it's really not about lacrosse. It's about who we are as human beings and how unique that is. You know, I think, I don't know. Do you got anything on that, Bomber?
Yeah, could you just repeat the question one more time? Just kind of.
Yeah. Ryan's asking, as a non-Indigenous coach coaching teams, what advice would you have as Indigenous players for him on teaching his players the origins and deeper meaning of the game, but he wants to remain respectful of the Indigenous roots of the game?
Yeah, I think just, you know, continue to ask questions and do things like this and do as much as you can to kind of learn and kind of reach out. And I think that for me, we always try to relate things as best we can to, you know, whatever they're going through. And I think that kind of allows them to understand more and kind of put that shoe on their foot, I guess you could kind of say. I think that's one thing that I've realized, that, you know, it's easier for, you know, people to kind of get through and kind of relate to whatever they're going through the best that they can. Obviously, it's not always going to translate to a T, but, you know, there's some things that, you know, for instance, like the Thanksgiving address, we're giving thanks for all that we have and that kind of thing, you know. And these players that are non-Indigenous, you know, they can be thankful for, you know, their family and getting to be out there and doing those things, and just kind of, you know, just trying to relate to them as best as you can to kind of get through to them. I think that, you know, these kids, you know, they don't really understand, you know, why it is why we do things the way we do. But I think that showing them, you know, examples in their world helps them understand better.
Yeah. And I think using the term Indian, I don't like that term. That's not what I am. So using a First Nation or Aboriginal or something like that to, you know, speak on who we are.
Perfect. You know, I had one, I'm just going to throw, it's kind of off the side of that question, so it fits well. What would you like to see as far as a diversity integration into lacrosse? So, you know, we do coaching clinics, we try to teach, you know, new dads that are coming into the game how to teach catching and throwing and scooping. What can we do, you know, at the national level or provincial level to, you know, promote and integrate diversity that's respectful, but also kind of hits the mass?
I think just hearing people out and listening to their story, you know, that's a big reason why we created Turtle Island Lacrosse, was to, you know, hear your story, Russ, or hear, you know, some kid's story. And I think that's the biggest thing is integrating like learning about African Americans or African Canadians or Asians. You know, I think, learning about their culture and their stuff is so cool because, I mean, it's so new to you, right? And it's interesting to see how other people live. And I think integrating that into lacrosse, I mean, I think it would have to be like talks like this on a consistent basis about different types of things. I don't really know the answer to that, but that's what I think.
Yeah, I think just having an open mind, not everyone grows up the same. Not everybody, has the same values, case may be. And just knowing that, a person may do one thing or wear something or do whatever, and that's okay because that's, that's why it could be a part of their culture. They do that in a certain way. And I think that one thing for me would be asking questions. I think that, for me, I've been extremely lucky that, all the teams and schools that I've gone to and played for, I think that I've always felt very welcomed and accepted because, my teammates and my coaches and my peers, they always ask questions. They wanted to learn more and they wanted to know, why, I wore a certain thing or why I said this or these, whatever the case may be. And having an open mind and knowing that, you have a willingness to learn. I think that's, something that goes a long way for, kids of color, feeling, accepted and feeling like people want to learn more about your culture and knowing that, yeah, you're different. Your skin color might be different, but these people want to learn more about your culture and they're not just, shutting you out because of those things.
Yeah, it's interesting. When I first started teaching and I went through education in the mid-90s, there was very little literature in our history textbooks about things like residential school legacies or even Indigenous. Basically, Canada started when Columbus landed. And I think that has transitioned and changed. I think we've got more work to do, and now leaving teaching and working a lot in coaching, I really think that our national organization, our provincial organizations have a responsibility to ensure that lacrosse didn't start with, the 1910 Minto Cup. That including some history before that is a really crucial part. I don't know. Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, and I think, my family has been affected by residential schools and, and I think that's one of the biggest reasons why I didn't grow up traditionally in Longhouse. And, for those who don't know what residential schools are, it's basically, kill the Indian and save the man, rip away, our culture, our values, everything we are as people and become normalized, I guess, in a sense. And, I think that learning these histories are important.
Yeah, and I think those are, like Randy said, those are still some things that, are still affecting people in the same way. And it's, kind of up to, our generation, Randy, like Randy said, he didn't grow up, traditional, but, he's doing everything he can now to kind of learn that so he can kind of change that dynamic. And I think that, that's important. And I think, going forward with these kind of, coaching and things like that. And I think those are things that, like I said, having an open mind, teaching those things. So, these people can kind of open their mind to things. Like you said, there's not a lot of teachings and things about it, in schools and whatever. So I think wherever, there's a opportunity for education in those parts, I think it's important to kind of do it, especially for something to do with, a game that, that was given to us. And, and I think that's important.
Yeah. We have another question here, gentlemen. Jeffrey Nelson is asking if either of you have any thoughts or ideas on how we can get more kids out to play. Technology and other sports are interfering with registration. Any tips that you guys would have?
Oh, technology is really screwing things up for kids. I think, just I don't really know the answer to that, honestly. I think that comes from, parents, I guess I would say. For me, I try to let my daughter play outside and run around with a stick as much as I can. And, that's kind of how I grew up, was just playing in the backyard. And I think it's not like that anymore in a lot of ways. So I think, just getting outside and messing around with a stick, I don't really know how to, boost registration numbers, but I mean, I think a start of, say someone has a son that has a friend who doesn't play, and taking him outside and trying to, throw the ball around with that kid who's never played before. I think, that would be a start.
Yeah, I think that's something that I would say as well, just kind of networking in a sense where, kind of going through kids that already play, reaching out to their friends and to their other families that, maybe they want to play in something that they would want to do. It's a great way to kind of, maybe they're a hockey player, tell them Wayne Gretzky played. It's a great way to kind of stay in shape in the summertime and to kind of, get your conditioning up and doing those types of things. And it's also, a great game that has, a lot of opportunities down the road, where we've been very lucky to kind of get, scholarships and play the world stage and do those types of things. And, and I think that's important for kind of kids to realize, they kind of see lacrosse as like a stepping stone, using lacrosse to kind of get to the NHL or whatever the case may be. But, lacrosse has, you don't make a ton of money, whatever the case may be, but it's a great game that has a lot of experiences that, will really help with different experiences in your life and that you might not even realize.
I think going off that too is like, a lot of guys in the NHL play lacrosse, and, a lot of guys I've talked to always wanted to be multi-athletes and not just drilled playing the same sport over and over and over and over again, because, you get burnt out, and you get sick of doing what you're doing. And, so I think just, yeah, that's what
I think another thing to kind of keep kids involved is focusing on more skill development. And for me, that's something that I've learned kind of growing up from my parents, is developing that skill, because, there's obviously going to be kids who excel more at the game and they're just naturally better. But, if you can kind of speed those kids up with their skills, they don't lose interest as much. They don't want to quit because they don't feel as good, so they're kind of, building those kids up and trying to do your best you can to kind of, get them to a place where they feel confident that they can continue this game and excel in it.
I want to just, we got a couple of questions here that I can jump on, but I wanted to, explore the spreading the medicine message that you were talking about earlier. I mean, obviously, I was able to really witness this firsthand in Kugluktuk with the Grizzlies program. Watching Kyle say on camera to an ESPN crew that it saved his life was an incredibly powerful moment in my life. It happened in 2003 that he did that, and I'll just never forget that interview. I was sitting there watching it and tears streaming down my face just to see how much he needed that game. And you hit on some really interesting parts of spreading the medicine to the fans in the stands and to a grandma and a grandpa. And I had never thought about that until now when you brought that up. Can you give us some examples of how real that is for you on a week in and week out basis, where and maybe there's some pressure for you on spreading the medicine to other people in the community that are hurting? Just a little bit of a story around that for you.
Yeah. So for me, like I said, playing in Six Nations and having this game so deeply rooted in our community, I see these people around my community all the time. And, I know the people who are diehard going to be at a senior A game, and like Bomber said, you don't know what's going on in their life, if they're sick or if they're had a bad day or, stuff's not going their way that day. And, they come to watch the Chiefs play, and, especially, after you score a goal or something and you see these people who are in wheelchairs and, can barely move, and you see them, the smiles on their faces and the joy they have, you're not just representing yourself. Like I said, you're representing them, and the community. And, you know, that's something that's very special to me. And I wish I could do it forever, honestly, but that's probably not going to happen. And, you know, spreading that medicine is incredible. And you know what I mean? It's not just for Native people, you know. Lacrosse is being played all over North America, all over the world. And it's the same kind of thing, but, you know, people haven't thought that way, I guess is a good way to say it. And, you know, I hold it really dear to my heart.
Yeah, I think that's important what Randy just said. You know, you don't have to be Indigenous to kind of feel that medicine. I can think back to a story when I was playing for the Six Nations Arrows. You know, we'd had you know, non-Indigenous people who always came to our games, and, you know, from the surrounding areas. And, you know, one older lady, you know, came up to me and told me that, you know, that was the best day of the week. Sunday nights were her favorite nights of the week in the summer, because, you know, she got to come to Six Nations, watch the Six Nations Arrows play, and it freed her mind and allowed her, you know, didn't have any other worries. And that's when I kind of realized that, you know, it kind of had an effect on other people, and it wasn't just, you know, Indigenous. You know, going hard in a game, you can be anyone. You know, you can make a big hit or a big pass or, you know, a big goal. Just, you know, that energy that you feel from those plays, you know, it doesn't just affect the game. You know, it affects everyone who's watching, you know, and they kind of feel that, you know, that feeling, that sense, you know, whether they're invested in the game, that they're invested in that energy into the game. And, you know, that's really contagious for them, and it really builds them up. And, you know, she said that, you know, it prepares her for her next week. You know, it puts her in a good place. You know, maybe it doesn't if we lose, but, you know, if we win, I know for sure it puts her in a good place heading into that week. And, you know, she already can't wait for the next one.
That's an incredibly powerful message. Anonymous attendee has asked a couple questions here. One is, any recommendations you might have for documentaries or books to learn more about First Nations people? You know, and maybe that's a Google thing, but if you guys have some specifics, but, you know, you can package that in with this. Oh, there we go. Perfect.
Iroquois Culture and Commentary. I can't pronounce the guy's name. Doug George. Actually, I thought I had a Mohawk name. That's a good book on just our culture and kind of everything that, from our point of view, on how history has evolved us. And then the other one is, I think it's called The Medicine Game. Isn't that what it's called? Oh, The Creator's Game.
Yeah, Creators.
Sorry. I'm just trying to pull it up here.
I want documentary. I can't remember. I think it's on Netflix. It's called Keeper of the Game. I know Randy and I touched on, you know, the women's part of the game, you know, a little bit. And this documentary goes into a deep dive about how, you know, women in our game have evolved, and how, you know, what it once was for them, how they were kind of outlawed in the game and it wasn't for them, and that type of thing. It goes through, you know, different stages of that, and goes into a reservation and talks about girls' real lives experiences, you know, playing at Salmon River High School in Haudenosaunee, and kind of overcoming those barriers where, you know, there was traditional elders and traditional people who outlawed them, really didn't want them to play, kind of protested it in a way, I guess, and didn't really want them to play. So that was a really interesting one for sure to check out.
Randy, can you show that book again just for a quick second so people can kind of get a look at it? What's the name of it? Iroquois Culture and Commentary. Okay, perfect. That's great. Just looking here. And then the second question by anonymous attendee, and this is great because I'd like to learn a little bit more. Will Turtle Island be running camps for Indigenous and non-Indigenous players in the future? And maybe you can use that as an opportunity to tell us about you guys. Tell us, you know, your program and where you're going.
So that's one thing we did leave out. So Turtle Island Lacrosse, basically me and Bomber started last year around this time, I think, or last January. And, you know, it came to fruition in August. We launched. We were sponsored by Epic. But our goal is to, spread the game across Turtle Island, which is North America and the world, where this game comes from, to Indigenous and non-Indigenous people. Kind of like what we did tonight. I think it's important. And I think it's powerful stuff that we're talking about. And, we just started our nonprofit. So, we can go into different reserves or different places or inner cities who might not have this game and bring this positive energy to those areas to hopefully, like Bomber said, use lacrosse as a vehicle like we've had the ability to do. And I think that's very important because it's something that, I've never had as a kid. I grew up here on the reserve and we didn't really have, we had mentors, but they didn't really teach us how to go about going to school or what to expect leaving the reserve. That's a big thing for us. Leaving home, not too many people do it in our communities because they're I don't want to say they're scared, but there's no trust because of past history. And, gaining that trust and allowing people to know and to be that mentor for people is something that we really pride ourselves on.
Perfect. And I just, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I did. I've lost my train of thought though. I had a good one too. I'll say it if it comes back to me.
Okay.
Yeah, I just put up the website there, so people should definitely check you out. Check out the website and make touch. I got one last question here, and then I'll digress to you guys to kind of finish it off. But how proud are you to young men, and knowing that you're major role models for a lot of people, but also just stepping back and seeing that this medicine game is being played by so many people across the world now, and it's spreading medicine, but it started with you. How proud does that make you feel, or can you elaborate on that a bit?
Yeah, it's an amazing feeling. I think that, it's something that, I kind of got my train of thought back. When we started, Turtle Island, I kind of grew up, I would always be mad why people didn't know about my culture and that kind of thing. And, obviously as I got older, I started to realize, it's not their fault. There's no education in it. Why would they know? And, it's something that, we kind of took to heart. We wanted to change that, dynamic and really look forward to kind of teaching, our younger youth and non-Indigenous people. And I think that's something that we really took to heart and we really wanted to, focus on going forward.
I never thought of that, Russ, honestly. I think it's incredible I think it's kind of right now too big for me to wrap my head around that, because it's crazy to see, people from, like you just said, Turkey or Australia or Japan, all these different places are playing this game, and for it to, be gifted to us in our culture, I think it's something that's, amazing. And like Bomber said, for people to learn about our culture is the unique part, and then lacrosse is just the other part that's attached to it,
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Every 4 years we go play in these world stages, and every single time, there's 10 more countries playing. It's insane. And they go in, they know they're not going to come in, they're not going to blow the doors up anybody, they're not going to compete for a gold medal right away, but to kind of see the energy and the excitement they have to be there is, it's so contagious. It's something that I cherish seeing all the time. Seeing, for me growing up, I think that I didn't think lacrosse could ever be this big. I always thought it was in an inner circle that we kind of have, and that to kind of think about it now that people in, like Randy said, Turkey and Peru and all these countries are playing now. It's crazy to think that our game has grown so much, and that medicine has reached to these people, and to see how much joy they have to play this game and to be a part of these ceremonies. And, it's awesome to see, and it's awesome to be part of. And, I'm excited to see where that growth continues to go.
One thing to add on that, Bomber, when we were in Israel in 2018, we had a traditional ceremony with Uganda. So they did their welcoming ceremony, and then we did ours, and then we played catch with those guys. And then that's like stuff I'll never forget in my life, and it's pretty life changing to hear them and to see the conditions that they have to play in. It's such a beautiful thing.
Yeah, for me, I don't remember scores or games or anything from those tournaments. But what I do remember is when in 2014 when New Zealand did the haka for us. That was some of the most powerful things I've ever seen. I think back to Israel when Peru did something similar, those cultural exchanges to see how much people look up to us and those types of things it's truly amazing, and something that, I hold close to my heart, and it's so amazing.
It's funny. The reason I asked that question is in 2003, you guys won't know this, I was in the Arctic Circle working with these kids in Kugluktuk, and the Iroquois Nation at the 2003 U19 World Cup in Baltimore had a real interest in our program because of the Indigenous students that we had down there. And they brought 5 kids from our program onto the sideline for the entire tournament, had them stay in residence. It totally changed our kids' approach from just a game to a medicine game for them. And they were always, and forever grateful for the Iroquois national team. Chief Warren Lyons was there, but a number of people bringing them in and having that opportunity. You guys were real role models for kids in the Arctic, and that's what I think really led to a lot of the positivity that they've experienced.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was a really cool. Bert Fong has a question here. As players who have played collegiate level and pro, is playing both box and field important in developing skill to get to the next level?
100%. I like to say, playing box lacrosse really helps you in the field game, obviously, because you have so much more time, so much more room to do things rather than, coming from field to box, because it's kind of the opposite, right? You have so much time and room in the field game. And then when you come to indoor, that's why you don't see some of the big time field players playing in the NLL, because it's a totally different game, and it's a lot to adjust for people. So I think playing both, is 100%, you need to do.
Yeah, I agree with that. Obviously I spent most of my life playing box lacrosse. I was never able to play field. I wasn't exposed to it until high school. And, sometimes I wonder, what it would have been like to, learn those things that, kids in the US are learning on the field when I was younger, and maybe to see, where my game could be at. I think that, I don't think one or the other is more important. I think together they're both very important, just because you can kind of take things from both games and use them in both games. And I think that's really important, something that I really try to stress. I think that, a lot of people have it in their head that, you just need to play box lacrosse and you'll be good at the field game. But, there's still things that, half the time I still barely know the field rules. So, I think I could benefit for a little more experience for sure.
Maybe if you started earlier, you'd have a left hand too.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, we don't want to go there yet. Bert also had a comment in chat. Speaking of the medicine game, he said, not a question, but a statement of gratitude. My son has ADHD and sensory processing disorder. We tried a lot of sports, hockey, soccer, baseball. None of these sports could meet his needs until we found lacrosse. Lacrosse has given him an outlet to focus his energy and attention, has done wonders for his social interactions and confidence. You talked about the medicine game. It's a great comment.
I have that same condition, and I know what it's like to not be able to focus and stuff like that. So that's awesome that this game can do that for your son.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think that those are the things that you peel back on the surface, and those are the things you see. For me, I don't always think about those things and how those things have an effect on people. And it's just so great to hear that, this game can really do positive things for people outside of just being a sport alone, having positive effects on their life that goes far beyond the game. And, that's something that, I absolutely love about this game. And it's awesome to hear.
Okay, we'll start to finish up here. One of the things I was excited about for this session, I mean, there was a lot, but, seeing Randy all grown up is one. I actually took a screenshot, Randy, and sent it to Maxine, and she said, tell him to shave, but tell him I miss him. And anyways, the other thing is, I used to really like to script things. And one of the things I was taught when I, spent a lot of time working with Indigenous groups is a lot of the best way to approach things like a session tonight is to allow us to just talk, right? And have a conversation and tell stories. Give us an idea of, you talked a little bit about the Uganda experience. And I understand that you guys do a lot of cultural sharing. Give us an idea of a cool cultural sharing story that you guys have been involved with, either before Turtle Island or since.
Last year, 2 years ago now, Jesus, 2020 got away from me. But 2019, when we were in BC for the World Games, the indoor, the Iroquois Nationals were welcome to the Katsi Reservation, and they sang prayer and they welcomed us to their land. And I got the shivers talking about it. I was so emotional during that exchange and seeing how our Indigenous team had an effect on them. We're not the same culture, we're not the same tribe, but we are First Nations, Aboriginal people that welcome each other and honor each other and respect each other. And for me, that was probably one of the best things I've ever seen, emotionally and physically, watching how they sang and how they moved and how they dressed. It's very cool to see those cultures, because it's so crazy that there's so many different native tribes across the world, and all of them are unique in their own way. And to learn that and see that firsthand is something I'll never forget.
Yeah, I think going off that, wherever we go, wherever the tournament is, we like to kind of give thanks and recognize the native people, or the Aboriginal people of that land what we're on. And I think that that's important for us when we start those games. And one thing for me on the cultural sharing part is, before the Iroquois National, I never really realized how many people we actually represent. I always thought of obviously the Mohawk, our Six Nations really, but as I've gotten older, I've seen we represent so much more than that, more than just North America. We're representing Aboriginal people all across the world, and I think that kind of showing that we're able to kind of compete and travel as a sovereign nation, and to kind of hear people's appreciation for that and kind of hear what they have to say is so, uplifting and so amazing to hear. And, to hear that, we have a positive effect on, an Aboriginal person from Peru or, things like that is amazing to hear. And, like I said, those are the things that I remember most about the tournaments that I get to travel to. I'm extremely lucky. It's more than a game. It goes far beyond the game of lacrosse, and building those relationships is something I hold close to my heart for sure.
Yeah, that's amazing. Geez, I've got chills. I can't stress enough my gratitude for you guys accepting the invitation to come on tonight and speak. I'm really excited to work with you guys in the future here, but I also, I don't want to sound too much like a dad, but tell you how proud I am to have you as role models for a lot of kids that I, worked with every day. And you're the ones that they're looking at on YouTube videos, and you're the ones they want to be. And to hear you speak tonight and have such a well-grounded root in the game is just, it's bone chilling. So I really appreciate it. I'll let you guys kind of take it from there, and we'll finish this up.
Yeah, well, thank you. Anytime we get a chance to do this and speak our story and talk about who we are and what this game means to us, it's amazing. I appreciate you guys for having me and Bomber, and hopefully we can do something like this in the near future. Yama.
Yeah. Now, like Randy said, we're happy to do these things, and we enjoy them so much to be able to kind of share our experiences and, things that we have learned through our experience, like through our, our upbringings and in our culture. It's important to us that we're able to pass those down and to kind of share that with people. And, we really enjoy doing these things. So,
I really appreciate it. That concludes this session for tonight. We again, really thank Randy and Brendan for coming on and sharing such an amazing part of the game. I mean, what other game do we have in the world, but especially here in North America, that's so grounded in thousands of years of medicine? And I think it's our obligation, every single person on here, to promote that moving forward. One thing I will challenge people to do, and I think Dave's going to throw up next week's session, we're going to keep doing these for the next 6 or 7 weeks. Next week's session is going to be a panel discussion with Darren Fridge, Glenn Clark, Ian Wilson, Lee Breen, and Paul Day. We're going to be talking about balancing recreational coaching, competitive coaching in an ethical manner, and coaches and referees working together. How can we make this happen so everybody's in a positive state? We're going to be tweeting this out at our links at Lax Playbook. We really encourage everybody on here to do some retweeting and promoting so we can get more and more people. I think all of you are probably pretty, sat back in your seat by this last session. So we want to capitalize on that and keep moving forward with more sessions to try to make all of us a little bit better in Canada. Randy and Brendan, thank you so much. I'm really excited about working with you guys in the future.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Thank you guys for having us.
All right.